Okay, so let's talk about how I'm trying to automate my trading strategy. Well, actually, it's already automated now, but let's start from the beginning. So during the summer, around July time, I was trading this long-term strategy. So it was more of a swing strategy where I use RSI. But then during the summer, basically what happens is I always have a lot of more time on my hands than during the semester. And so I wanted to find intraday strategy, possibly in the 15-minute, the 5-minute range. Um, and so I started to look for this strategy, and then I was trying this strategy out. It was just, I guess you could just call it a trend following strategy, but that didn't last long because one day, this is this was such an interesting coincidence. I was just in bed and I was about to sleep, and I guess I was uh, scrolling on YouTube Shorts, which is unusual. I mean, I would probably been on Instagram rather than YouTube. And if I'm on YouTube, I usually watch long form content, anyways. But I found this short about a breakout strategy. So basically, the strategy was at let's say New York session, so 2:30 p.m. to 2:45 p.m. 15-minute candles, the highs and the lows of the 15-minute candle in that time range, and then um, there is going to be a candle that breaks out of the range and is going to close outside. And then if the next candle also closes outside the range, then you can enter a position. So, and I'll put an example of this on the screen. And then after that, you can put your stop loss below the zone, and your take profit is really your choice, 1 to 1, 1 to 2, whatever you want it to be. So I saw the strategy, and for some reason, it really clicked and it really resonated with me. And I think the reason is that I have a tendency to get very confused on the charts, especially when I'm backtesting. So if I don't have a strategy that is crystal clear and very robotic, where I don't have to think a lot, I will have a tendency to just get confused, and then I'll get off the charts, etc., etc., etc. So I saved this video, and the next morning I think I woke up around 7 a.m., which is sorry, which is unusual for me in the summer. And I just went to my laptop. I started looking at some examples of this on TradingView on the charts, and I liked what I was seeing. So after this, I started backtesting this strategy on a website called, I think it was called FX Replay. Yeah, Forex Replay. I can put a link in the description. I'll also put a screenshot of it. And I really liked what I was seeing, and for the first time in a really long time, I could actually sit down and backtest properly and do a proper backtesting session, because usually the way they went is, I sat down, backtested for about 30 minutes or 10 trades, and then after that, I start getting confused and I start getting disheartened, and I don't really believe in the strategy anymore. I just had a lot of confusion. But for this strategy, the rules were very simple, and because I'm not a very technical trader, definitely, and they were extremely reproducible. So what I mean by that is that if I go back now and I see the same zone, I would take the same trades, which is something that has really helped me. And that is the time that I understood, wow, okay, the reason that the strategy really resonates with me is that it removes any confusion, which I usually have when I'm trading. So, I was backtesting. I was backtesting for 3 days in a row. I woke up in the morning, backtested. So after this, I decided to get a funded account and just trade it on MetaTrader 5 with the prop firm, basically. So I got a very small 5K funded account, because you just try with these things. And so I start seeing even more that these trades are so obvious to take that I could take them drunk, basically. So, I did have period of, I guess, confusion on whether I should enter on the second candle or maybe wait for a bit more momentum. So I went back and forth with that for a little bit. But other than that, I could really see that I was able to take these trades if I was out with other people, if I was, on a boat, if I was just running around the city just with my phone in my hand and I needed no laptop to take them either. Because once I saw the zones on TradingView on your phone, it was easy. Again, this is a very simple strategy and it had nothing technical. So I had plenty of examples of this, and I took some trades while my grandma was talking to me and I was putting the car in reverse. One phone in my hand, the other phone, I was trying to reverse the car. So, anyways, situations that are usually very distracting, I could still know when to enter the position, right? And the best thing is that at the end of the week, when I look back at the trades, if I had to replay that exact time range, I would take the same exact trades, which is something that for me was unprecedented in the trading strategies that I've had and is also not common in my swing strategy with RSI. So after this, I have this funded account and it's obviously got some ups and downs. Every strategy, not every the strategy can never be 100% bulletproof. But I have to say, it was showing some very good results. And so I guess every time in the morning I woke up for the London session, and then in the afternoon, straight after lunch, I went back to it for the New York session. And it was okay. I was sometimes a bit distracted, I guess, if I was talking to my family or my friends, but other than that, they were really quick to take. So I can do this in the summer, and I also did it in September, and it was working great actually. And it got to the point where I passed the first phase of the funded account, which I was really happy about because this was the first time that I passed phase one of a funded account. And so, I was ready to, I was making plans in my head. I was ready to say, okay, wow, now we're gonna pass phase two and then I'm gonna get funded, blah, 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 blah. But phase two, I actually failed pretty quickly and I made the mistake of not sizing down when the account was in heavy drawdown, towards the max limit. And then after I lost phase two, it occurred to me that I was like, oh, damn, I really could have sized down, but I didn't, so now I lost the account. But it's okay, because at the end of the day, I was still backtesting and I believed in the strategy a lot because I did see some very good results, enough to pass me the first phase of the account, and so I was willing to try again. So I buy another 5K and I start trading again manually. The issue is summer was at this point over, and so I went back to university, and so I could not keep up with the trades that I had to take because if I have a lecture in the morning, which I usually do, I cannot be looking at the charts, even if it's so quick. I cannot be looking at the charts and then setting the take profit, setting the stop loss. Um, I forgot to mention a really important thing. So while I was backtesting these 2 days, basically I coded. Well, I didn't code anything, but ChatGPT coded an indicator that would send alerts to my phone for the breakout. So, for example, if I got two consecutive candles, um, ChatGPT, no, the TradingView would send an alert to my phone saying two consecutive candles, you should enter a buy or you should enter a sell, which obviously made it a lot easier and meant that I didn't have to be on the charts all the time. However, all that the indicator does was basically just send me the alert. So I still was the one that had to, open the platform and set the take profit and stop loss manually. And so you can definitely see why this is kind of a strategy that I want to work 7 days a week on both sessions, London and New York. And I obviously couldn't afford to do this when I went back to university because, again, even if I get the alert, I might not be in a situation where I can take a trade, or maybe I'm out with my friends and I might even forget. So I tried doing this for a while, but then I quickly realized that it was really not going to work, and I either do this 5 days a week on both sessions, or there's no point in me just taking a trade on a Wednesday morning and then I can't even look at the rest of the trades for the session. It's just not how it works. So around October, I started getting this kind of voice in my head telling me to automate the strategy, make it, you know, just automate it. And it got to a point where I couldn't ignore this voice anymore, because I was like, well, I'm not in a position to take the trades manually. I cannot be in front of my laptop or even just my phone from 7 a.m. to 5 p.m. It can be done. Um, so I had this voice, and so eventually, I guess I gave in and I started working on it, and I started working on refining the code so that it could be an actual strategy, you know? So my prop firm account is connected to a MetaTrader 5 account, right? And so I start informing myself and seeing how I could possibly automate the trades. And the first thing that I tried is using the MT5 coding language. I think it's called MQL5. And I tried doing that from MT5 on my laptop, but that didn't really work. Even ChatGPT was struggling with that kind of code, and it always gave an error. And so at this point, what I found out is that I could basically have the code in PineScript and make an indicator of it, and then this indicator would send alerts, and then I would use they're called expert advisors, I think, that would basically receive this alert and act as a bridge from TradingView PineScript to MetaTrader 5, because there is no way to basically just send my alert directly to MT5, right? So I started testing out this service with, it's called pineconnector. Put a screenshot up here. They had a free trial, so obviously I wanted to try it. And so, I have my code from PineScript, and I download MT5 on my MacBook, but for some reason, I just cannot, I can't download the expert advisor, pineconnector, on MT5 on my MacBook, because it had a series of blocks. I'm not even sure where they came from. And so what I have to do at this point, I realize that I'm gonna need Windows to operate this thing, basically, which is really annoying. But so, I go to my university and I try to download the whole thing on my university's system, but that obviously cannot work. It's a very local thing. I need to have it on my MacBook in a place where I can access it. So I find this other service called Parallels Desktop, which I will also screenshot, which is basically a service that allows me to download Windows on my MacBook. And they also had a free trial, so I was like, okay, let's test it. So when I download MT5 on this Windows version on my laptop, it works with the pineconnector advisor, right? So I'm like, okay, good. So I guess now I'm ready to send the alerts. And then I made all of this insane amount of progress in 2 days in August, where I found the strategy, I backtested, I coded an indicator to send alerts to my phone, and then this insane amount of progress in those few days in October, where I downloaded pineconnector, downloaded MT5, downloaded Parallels Desktop, got everything set up basically. But the issue was that the alerts that were being sent to my phone just told me when to buy or when to sell. They had no indication of take profit or stop loss, which means that I still had to put those myself manually. And this is something that I definitely wanted to fix, because how else was I going to automate the strategy, right? And this is, I guess, where the real issue kind of started, because I was all excited. Oh wow, let me. It's one thing to have alerts that say when to buy and when to sell, and it's a different thing to have alerts that say when to buy, when to sell, they also need to say that you can have multiple trades per session, but at the same time, I don't want to have two trades. So, for example, if I already have a trade open on that signal and I get another signal, I don't, because another breakout happens in the same direction, I don't want to open a duplicate trade unless the previous one is already closed. And then I also have to set up the a time that the trades close. So, for example, in between the two sessions, between London and New York, there's about like a 1 hour, 30-minute break. I don't want any trades in between those sessions. I also naturally don't want any trades before the 50-minute candle closes, because that's that's the range that I use as a breakout. And so if the 50-minute candle closes at 7:15, I don't want trades to be open before 7:15, which is, you would think is obvious, but I guess ChatGPT struggled a lot to code this kind of version. And so I kept having problems. I kept fixing an issue. I managed to have multiple trades per session and no duplicates. But I had continuously issues with trades being taken between sessions, and sometimes they wouldn't close at the right time, and they would almost always send alerts at the start of the session for some reason. And so this went on for months. And at the time, I was trading with 0.2 lots, and I had to bring it down to 0.01 lots, because every single trade that I took was just a test to see if it worked, if it didn't work, if the alert fired, and if the take profit and the stop loss, translated correctly into MT5. So I had a lot of issues with this. Oh, and then obviously I had to strip the symbols. So the alert would send saying symbol. So for example, GBP, JPY, and the name of my broker. I had to also add that into the code where it removed the name of the broker, because otherwise it wouldn't have been compatible with MT5. Don't get me wrong, none of this code was written by me. It was all written by AI, so Gemini, ChatGPT, mainly ChatGPT. But for some reason, there was always some detail that I couldn't get to fix, and until I can get those details to fix, the strategy is not automated, because I will have to check if the trades are closed, if it's correct, this and that. Okay? So this went on for a long time. From around mid-October, where I set everything up, until January, basically, I almost made no progress, in the sense that I kept trying and trying and trying. And for some reason, the stop loss would always be wrong. I tried mapping it so many times at the lower range of the zone or the upper range of the zone, depending on whether the positioner is a buy or a sell. And it just would never work. It would just be always off. And if it was correct for example, USD JPY, it was incorrect for GBP USD. So there was also a discrepancy in the 5 pairs that I'm trading. And these 5 pairs I chose based on basically just automatically backtesting on TradingView, because I made the indicator, the original indicator, into a strategy. And so with that thing, you can just put the strategy into TradingView in PineScript, and it will give you results for the past 2 weeks, 2 months, 2 years, whatever you need. Okay, so I found the pairs with the biggest return, and I just chose them. And for me, in this case, there were GBP USD, Euro USD, Odd JPY, USD JPY, and Euro CAD. And I'm always considering more pairs, but these were the ones that gave the highest returns, and so I stopped trading with other pairs and I just kept these. So for some reason, I really couldn't get the stop loss to be precise, and so the trade would just stop out before its time. It was just very frustrating, to keep trying and never getting it right. And then I also got very busy with university, so I didn't even have the time anymore to basically fix the code, to be there and fix the code every day. So I kind of took a break and just let the account rest for a bit. And then in December, which is when I had another university break, I basically started kind of looking at the code again here and there, and trying again and trying again. Until one day I was taking a nap. I guess I was tired. And as I take this nap, I guess you know that state when you're not sleeping but you're not awake, you're kind of in between. I I was thinking to myself in this kind of in between state, well, you're trying to fix a code that's fundamentally broken. You're just trying to patch up so many holes. It's never going to work. You have to start from scratch, simple code. So I got the idea. This was on a Friday, and so obviously the markets close on a Friday. But you know what market doesn't close on a Friday? The crypto market. So over the weekend, I decided, okay, let me scratch my code. I'll keep it as a reference because there were a lot of things that did work. But let me scratch it and let me just do it again from start. And this time I'm gonna try and use Gemini because I found that ChatGPT, every time I asked it, change this thing in my code, don't change anything else. ChatGPT would change the thing in my code and then something else consistently. So that was really annoying because I obviously know now what most of the code means so that I can edit it. So if I have to edit the R ratio, if I have to edit the colors of the lines on my screen, if I have to edit the lot size or the start of the session, the end of the session, I know how to do those things. But for more specific things, it was really frustrating. So this time I guess I turned to Gemini and I was like, okay, let's start from the beginning. I want you to draw these zones on my chart, and then and so I do that. I just start from the very beginning. Draw these zones on my chart. Let's not even use the 50-minute candle anymore. Let's just make it available on the 5-minute chart. Okay, so take the first three candles, 7 to 7:05, 7:05 to 7:10, and 7:10 to 7:15. I didn't even do New York session at the point because that's just basically copying and pasting the London session with different criteria. So, I just started very, very basic. So, okay, draw the lines on the chart. And I added this code, and the lines drew, and they were fine. And I saw that they just moved as the candles move, and then after the session, they stopped moving. So after 7:15, the lines were blocked and they would stop moving. So I was like, okay, great, that's step one. Now let's do step two. Send me a signal when two candles consecutively close outside the zone in either direction. Okay, so we did that, and I used I just couldn't wait until Monday, so I used Bitcoin to do this, and other cryptos I used. Anyways, I just used a bunch of random cryptos to do this. This wasn't even using money from my funded account. It was just I just wanted to see if the alerts worked. Okay, so I could see that it sends the signal. Fine. Now my next concern is I want multiple trades per session. However, so after a trade is finished, you need to put the position as flat again so that it can take new trades. But I don't want two trades to be taken on the same symbol at the same time. Okay, so only one trade per symbol per time, but multiple trades per session. Okay, so we did that, and I saw if the symbols, if the indicator worked with that. And when I got the right alerts to my phone, and I was like, okay, this is not sending me any alerts before 7:15, which would mean before the zone is even drawn. It works. And at this point, I did the thing that I was scared of the most, which was basically, okay, now I want to add a take profit and a stop loss. So match the lower bound of the zone or the upper bound of the zone to be the stop loss, and then make the take profit a one-to-one from that zone. And to my surprise, incredibly, with Gemini coding this, it worked the first time. I didn't even have to try twice. It just mapped very precisely for every symbol consistently. Sorry for the ambulance. There it is. The stop loss, the correct stop loss. So I was so excited about this, and then I was like, okay, now let's make it a bit more challenging. I want this stop loss to have a little a buffer because I don't want to be taken out by a spike that just goes through the zone and then goes back in. So let's add a little buffer. So I add a little buffer, and then I can see that now on my chart, the stop loss is on the zone plus a little buffer. Now, why am I saying I can see it on the chart? Because I found that I got the alert saying sell this symbol, this is the stop loss, and this is the take profit. And then I would go on TradingView and use the tool that just shows you the trade. Basically, I'll put a screenshot here because I don't know what it's called, and then drag the stop loss and drag the take profit. And then I got lazy and I was like, well, if I really want this strategy to be automated, surely I can ask a Gemini to also put the take profit and the stop loss on the chart as lines. So now I have the lines from the range, and I also have a green line saying TP and a red line saying stop loss, which massively helps when I need to see the buffer. And the buffer is pretty good now. I'll put some examples up on the screen. So after this, I was like, okay, wow, now it really works. And I can see, that the trades are taken correctly on my MT5 account. So anyways, the trades were taken correctly, the stop loss was correct, the take profit was correct. I had no issue with, translation in terms of pips, buffer, everything, lots, anything, even symbol name. So this already seemed like a dream to me because it had been such a long time of me trying and trying and trying the code, and it just never worked. And then with Gemini, first attempt, it just did it. So I guess I was right during the NUP to think there is no point in me trying to really fix a code that is just never gonna work. So at this point, this is how it's looking like. The trades execute on MT5. However, for the trades to execute, I need to have the page of the pineconnector, of the bridge open, of the advisor open, and I also need to have MT5 open. This is kind of a problem for the same exact reasons as before, because this means that the whole time that I'm in a lecture, or basically the whole day from 7 a.m. to 5 p.m., even to 8:30 p.m. actually, because that's when I close the trades. I force close the trades from the New York session, whether they're TP or SL or not. I just close them for the day. I basically need my laptop working from 7 in the morning to 9 p.m. with no interruptions, MT5 always open, always my laptop charged, always connected to the internet, no matter where I am. This is obviously impossible for me because I use my laptop for university, and I just cannot be in the lecture with MT5 open the whole time. Also, it really made my laptop work a lot, so it kind of overheated even. And I'm never gonna be the type to just have my laptop open and connected the whole night, the whole day, the whole night, the whole day, because it's a laptop, it's not a desktop computer. And so basically what I was doing at this point in time, before Christmas break in December, was that, or maybe in January even, yeah, in January, was that I was waking up at 7 in the morning, opening MT5, and then leaving it there the whole day. Okay, so this didn't work. First of all, I was not happy to have to wake up at 7 in the morning. Also, sometimes I had some guests over, or I had to go to sleep over at someone else's house. And so there was just no way for me to tell them, hey, look, I have to wake up at 7 in the morning every time that I'm here or that you're here, and just need to open this program on my laptop. It was just really annoying, But at this point, I was already paying for a subscription to TradingView, because these are professional alerts. They're not the normal kind of alerts, so I needed an essential subscription for this. I was paying for pineconnector, the bridge. I was paying for Parallels Desktop to have Windows. And this is the time that I was like, okay, I will also need to pay for a VPS. Now, what's a VPS? A VPS is a virtual private server, I'm pretty sure, which means that I would basically not need to have MT5 or pineconnector open at all times. They could be closed on my laptop. Basically, I'm moving the system from my laptop, so local, to just be on the server where it's always open, but it's like it's on a different laptop. Okay. And so at this time I made the decision and I was like, you know what, let's do it. Let me just try this. I kind of was dreading it and I was kind of scared to do it because I thought it was gonna be super complicated to set up, but really I just purchased the subscription for a month basically, and it was really easy. I got basically a password and I now access some kind of Windows server from my laptop, and I just leave pineconnector open there and MT5 open there, but I can close the window in a way. So my laptop does not overheat. It doesn't even use the battery. It doesn't use any storage because it's like it's been transferred to an external server. And that works 24/7. And so finally, I got to the point where the trades would just fire while I slept with the correct criteria, everything. And yeah, I don't even need to open MT5 on my laptop ever again. I deleted it because it was taking up a lot of space. No, actually, what's taking up space is Parallels Desktop, but I don't need Windows on my laptop anymore because I don't need to open MT5. So yeah, that is the story, quite long, of how I automated. And now that it's completely automated, I could be sleeping, my laptop could burn up, I could die, and the trades would still execute as long as Windows doesn't do like a software update. And so obviously all the programs are gonna close, and I'm gonna have to open them up manually again. The trades are gonna keep running forever. So this was really a lot of my. It was really weighing on me, and so I'm really glad that I could get to fix those. And it all happens. It seems that every time it's just a session where I lock in for a couple of days and then I fix this problem, and then I have a few months of like stalling and trying to figure things out, and I have some more time to think about it, and I fix the next one, and then I fix the next one. And so in January I finally reached the point where I completely automated the strategy that I found in August. And as we speak, I'm getting notifications on my phone and I know that the trades are executing correctly. And I'll also show you examples of that. I'll put up a screenshot. So now what I'm going to do is I've given myself 12 weeks to get funded basically. So now currently I'm on a 10K account, for reasons that I'm gonna explain in the next video because this is too long. And I've done week 1 of trading, and then I will do week 2. This is week 2 actually, and then hopefully by week 12 we are funded. I need to pass a phase 1 and I need to pass a phase 2, and then I'm funded. And I'll give all the details in the next video. But yeah, this was basically just to say how I automated. If you have any questions, let me know, and I'll see you in the next one.